At first, it didn't look like anything special. Just another clip. Another moment buried inside years of content. Another interaction that most people had already seen or thought they had seen. But as ARMY knows better than anyone, sometimes it's the smallest details that create the biggest waves. And this time, the wave came fast. What began as a quiet discussion in a corner of the fandom suddenly exploded across timelines, comment sections, and group chats. Screenshots were shared. Old videos resurfaced. Reactions poured in from all over the world. And before anyone could fully process what was happening, one phrase kept appearing again and again. Wait, how did we miss this? This is the story of the Taekook theory that caught ARMY completely off guard, not because it was loud, dramatic, or shocking at first glance, but because it felt strangely familiar. In a fandom as massive as ARMY, theories are nothing new. Fans analyze lyrics, performances, interviews, gestures, timelines, sometimes for fun, sometimes out of pure curiosity. Most theories come and go quietly. They spark brief conversations, then fade into the background as new content arrives. But every once in a while, something different happens. This particular Taekook theory didn't start with bold claims or dramatic titles. It started with a simple observation shared by a fan who wasn't trying to convince anyone of anything. They weren't declaring a hidden truth. They weren't demanding agreement. They simply pointed out a pattern in moments, in timing, in reactions that seemed ordinary on their own, but different when placed side by side. At first, only a few people noticed. Then more fans began adding their own clips, their own memories, their own thoughts. And suddenly, the conversation was everywhere. What makes this theory stand out isn't that it claims something extraordinary. It's that it asks a question many ARMY hadn't considered before. What if we've been looking at these moments separately when they were always meant to be seen together? Rather than focusing on a single interaction, the theory connects multiple eras, schedules, and public appearances. It doesn't rely on one dramatic moment. Instead, it looks at consistency, how certain behaviors repeat over time, even when circumstances change. Fans began noticing how Jungkook and Taeyoung often react similarly in specific situations, how their energy seems to shift in sync, how certain expressions, glances, or body language appear not once, but across years of content. And the more people looked, the more uncomfortable the realization became. Not because it proved anything, but because it raised more questions than answers. One of the reasons this theory resonated so deeply is because it focuses on subtlety. Not grand gestures, not headline moments, but the quiet ones. Moments where neither Jungkook nor Taeyoung was the center of attention. Moments captured unintentionally by a camera moving too slowly. Moments that lasted less than a second, but somehow stuck in people's minds. Fans pointed out how these moments often occur when neither of them realizes they're being watched. A shared smile, a glance held just a beat longer than necessary, a reaction that mirrors the other without explanation. Individually, these moments mean nothing. Together, they made people pause. Despite the dramatic title, what followed wasn't chaos. It was curiosity. Instead of arguments, many fans responded with thoughtful comments. They rewatched content. They checked dates. They compared interpretations. Some agreed. Some disagreed. Many remained undecided. And that's what made this moment special. Rather than dividing the fandom, the theory sparked discussion. It encouraged people to revisit BTS content with fresh eyes. It reminded ARMY why they fell in love with observing these 7 individuals in the first place. Because sometimes, fandom isn't about proving something. It's about noticing something. Jungkook and Taeyoung have always drawn attention, not because of rumors, but because of their natural chemistry on screen. From their earliest days as trainees to their growth as global artists, their dynamic has evolved in ways that fans find fascinating. They are different in personality, expression, and energy, yet often seem to meet in the middle. Jungkook's focus balances Taeyoung's unpredictability. Taeyoung's emotional depth contrasts Jungkook's intensity. And when those two worlds overlap, fans notice. This theory didn't create that fascination, it simply tapped into it. One detail that kept coming up in discussions was timing. Fans noticed that many of the moments referenced in the theory appear during transitional periods, comebacks, tours, hiatuses, or times when BTS were navigating change. During those moments, emotions run high. Schedules are intense. Pressure is constant. And yet, certain interactions remained steady. Some ARMY wondered if that consistency was what made the theory feel so compelling. Not because it revealed something hidden, but because it highlighted something familiar. It's important to say this clearly. This theory does not claim to know the truth about Jungkook or Taeyoung's personal lives. And most ARMY understand that. The theory exists in the space where fandom thrives, between curiosity and creativity. It doesn't demand belief. It invites interpretation. That's why it remains monetization safe and respectful. It celebrates connection without crossing boundaries. It observes without accusing. It speculates without insisting. And in today's fandom culture, that balance matters. So, why did this theory break the internet? Because it reminded fans of something they love, discovering new layers in something familiar. It reminded ARMY that BTS content isn't static. A moment from 5 years ago can feel different today. A glance once ignored can suddenly carry meaning, not because it changed, but because we did. Fans aren't reacting because the theory shocked them. They're reacting because it made them feel something. At its heart, this theory isn't about Taekook. It's about connection, about how humans notice patterns, about how shared experiences create bonds, about how fans find comfort in revisiting moments that feel genuine. For many ARMY, discussing this theory wasn't about proving anything. It was about feeling close to the music, the memories, and the journey they've shared with BTS. And that's why the conversation continues. Like all fandom theories, this one will eventually slow down. New content will arrive. New moments will capture attention. But this theory will likely linger, not as a conclusion, but as a reminder. A reminder to pay attention. A reminder to stay curious. A reminder that sometimes the most unexpected ideas come from simply looking again. And maybe that's why ARMY are still losing it, not because the theory answers anything, but because it asks something we weren't ready to consider. What if there's more to notice than we ever realize? In the end, this unexpected Taekook theory isn't about proving anything or reaching a final conclusion. It's about the way ARMY continue to notice, reflect, and find meaning in even the smallest moments. Sometimes, a theory doesn't need answers to feel powerful. It only needs curiosity. Jungkook and Taeyoung have always shared moments that feel genuine, natural, and open to interpretation. And maybe that's why discussions like this continue to resonate. Not because fans are looking for secrets, but because they appreciate connection, growth, and the shared journey BTS have given to the world. As always, this conversation is meant to be enjoyed respectfully, as part of fandom culture, creativity, and love for the artists. Whether you agree with the theory, disagree with it, or simply find it interesting, your perspective is what keeps these discussions alive. If you enjoyed exploring this topic, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the conversation positive, thoughtful, and fun. Thank you for watching, and as always, thank you for being ARMY.